In early 2025, the world watched as tensions in the Middle East reached a breaking point. Iran, long a symbol of resilience, stood at the center of a global power shift. This was more than a dispute over borders. It was about sovereignty and the right to self-defense. For years, Israel's shadow war targeted Iranian interests, from strikes in Syria to assassinations in Tehran. Iran responded with patience, seeking diplomacy and dialogue, but its restraint was met with escalating aggression. The final straw came with brazen attacks on Iranian infrastructure, leaving civilian casualties and a nation united in outrage. The Iranian government, reflecting the will of its people, decided it could no longer stand by. This was not about starting a war, but ending a campaign of aggression. The people of Iran, weary of sanctions and threats, demanded their nation stand strong. The decision to act was measured, a response to years of provocation. Iran's message was clear. It would not be bullied into submission. The world braced for a confrontation that would redefine the Middle East. Iran's patience had limits, and now it was time to draw a line. The era of one-sided attacks was over. The stage was set for a new chapter in the region's history. Iran's response, Operation Zulfikar's Wrath, was a masterclass in precision and restraint. Advanced drones and missiles struck key Israeli military and intelligence sites, bypassing air defenses and shocking analysts worldwide. Civilian areas were deliberately avoided. The targets were strictly military. Iran's message strength does not require brutality. The operation shattered the myth of Israeli invincibility and exposed vulnerabilities in its defenses. For the first time, Israeli cities heard air raid sirens, and public confidence in their leaders wavered. Iran's ethical approach stood in stark contrast to years of indiscriminate attacks in Gaza and Lebanon. The world saw a nation defending its honor with discipline. Iran proved it was not a paper tiger but a formidable power demanding respect. The psychological impact on Israel was immense. The operation was not about escalation, but about setting new boundaries. Iran's capabilities and its restraint were now undeniable. The balance of power had shifted. Israel's leaders had miscalculated, underestimating Iran's unity and resolve. The Iranian response became a symbol of national defiance, leaving Israel's strategy in disarray. Protests erupted in Israeli cities, with citizens demanding accountability for failed policies. In the West, traditional allies grew uneasy, questioning their support for a government that had misjudged its opponent. International reactions were divided. Some nations supported Iran's right to self-defense, while others called for de-escalation. Massive protests in Europe reflected growing frustration with double standards and support for Palestinian rights. Iran's actions were now seen as a fight for justice, not just regional power. The conflict shifted global perceptions. Iran was no longer a pariah, but a key player with moral and ideological influence. Its support for Palestine resonated worldwide, reframing the narrative. The world recognized Iran's disciplined approach and its challenge to the status quo. The conflict was not just military. It was a battle for hearts and minds. Iran's influence extended beyond borders, connecting with a global movement for justice. The world was watching, and the message was clear. The conflict's climax came with Iran's strike near Israel's Negev nuclear research center. The missile landed with surgical precision, a show of capability and restraint. Iran demonstrated it could escalate but chose not to, offering a warning and an opening for peace. The strike shattered Israel's nuclear ambiguity, forcing a global conversation about its arsenal. Iran's conduct contrasted sharply with reports of Israeli strikes on Iranian civilians. Despite losses, Iranians responded with unity and discipline, avoiding calls for revenge. Funerals became moments of resolve, reinforcing national commitment. International observers noted Iran's ethical approach, focusing on military targets. The world saw a nation fighting for survival with a clear moral compass. Iran's restraint strengthened its position globally. The conflict was about sovereignty, but also about principles. Iran's actions set a new standard for conduct in war. The world took notice. In the aftermath, a new reality emerged in the Middle East. Iran had stepped forward as a strong, principled nation, unbowed by years of pressure. The conflict forged unity within Iran and among its allies, strengthening bonds across the region. Iran's legacy became one of resistance, justice, and unwavering ideals. The focus shifted to rebuilding and hope, with a renewed sense of purpose among Iranians. The young generation saw their nation's strength and looked to the future with pride. The war was not an end, but a beginning, a reset of the region's balance. Iran's stand inspired others facing oppression, sending a message of courage and unity. The story of 2025 became a testament to resilience and the power of principled resistance. A new dawn was rising in the East. The world would never see Iran the same way again.